Мы пишем уже. Ира, у вас микрофон выключен.
Olga is here.
Oh.
Sorry, I changed time.
We can start our fourth part, in which we have two presentations by Alessandro De Carlo, Mariana, Velykodna, and probably I will join this part because probably maybe we will not have more presentations. And after this part, we will have discussion together with presentation by Zinaida Bolea, and then we will have final discussion among those who will stay till the end. So I'm glad that Alessandro De Carlo will present platform Sygmund. Alessandro De Carlo is CEO of CHISES and PSIO, and his presentation has the title COVID-19 and Online Psychology, the Role of the Online Counseling Platform Sygmund in Fighting Psychological Disease and Supporting the Economic Recovery. I'm looking forward for inspiring presentation.
Oh, you're too nice, my dear. So, I have to, on one hand, say thank you to Irina, and on the other, probably to apologize, because when she asked me, are you doing your presentation this year? Come on, please. I mean, we talk about this stuff. I said, I'm not doing extensive research in this period because I'm actually doing it, but it's all published about virtual reality because I'm launching a new company for online psychology. So I have no data. I don't know when I'll be out in the market. I expect to be out in the market before this conference so that I can have something to share. But you know, I'm a university guy, and I'm facing troubles like the technology doesn't work or stuff like that, which is not exactly what I'm used to. Fortunately, the technology is actually working, and it's something like 10 days that we're out. So I have something to say. It was a complete jump in the dark. But I'm coming not only with some data, which is not exactly data, it's mostly qualitative data and perspectives, but also with some proposal, because as you will see, what we're doing in Italy can be done in every country with a very small effort, as I've done the most of it. So I share my screen. Hopefully I remove the contents that should not be shared. Yes, it seems like. All right, so business secrets, what were you thinking? So COVID-19 and online psychology, the role of the online counseling platform Sygmund in fighting psychological disease and supporting the economic recovery. As you can see on your left or right, I don't know if it's a speculum, you can see our mascot, which is small Sygmund, the guy with the beard, the logo, and the site, which is Sygmund.it. It's in Italian because it's made according to Italian laws. That's also why we speak about psychological counseling, because we don't do psychotherapy. But I know that across Europe and across the world, professional regulations are very different. So please take the terms I use with a certain flexibility, because they're related with Italian laws. This is an applied project. By the way, if you go to Sygmund.it, in the meantime, you can see the site and you can use the auto translator and watch it in basically every language you want if you're not familiar with Italian. So what we do, what is Sygmund? I'm not gonna tell you, because first I'm telling you the situation in Italy with COVID-19. We have data. 62 out of 10 Italians show stress or distress. These are data of the National Council of Psychologists, which I've been a member of until January. Then fortunately I ran out of terms, and so I missed being a political representative during this pandemic, which has been probably the biggest luck in my life. 41% show a stress level between 80 and 100 out of 100. So the situation is pretty bad. The president, David Lazzari, spoke about a collective trauma and psychopandemic. He says that, and he's a good fellow, and he's also a fellow university professor in Perugia. He says that it's going to last 10 years. I believe him. Sygmund is an app for online psychology, and I started thinking about it quite a long time ago, in 2018, so way before COVID. It came out in a moment in which there's possibly the highest need of something like that, but the need is not going to stop if a vaccine comes out. Actually, we're going to have people that need to be brought back to an acceptable level of confidence, absence of fear, ability to think their life as starting over, and also for growing. So the need of psychology just started. The good thing, if we can find something good in this period, is that psychological intervention, psychological support started being a widespread public opinion topic. So we are entering the market. We are entering the market in a moment in which there's a certain awareness. I'm speaking about the market because in Italy, at least, I myself commissioned quite a bit of a good number of analysis, and we cannot go over 25% of the population. Like 25% of populations, they trust psychologists, they use psychology, the other 75 don't. And this data is quite stable. So I speak about the market, but I should say people that need psychology, but they don't go to psychology. Why? Because they fear the costs, because they fear how long it's gonna take. You know, old stereotypes about psychoanalysis is gonna last forever. There is some cultural stigma in some parts of the population, especially the lower socioeconomic fields of the population. So we're trying to overcome this. I treat it as a market, but because it has to be treated as a market, otherwise we're not gonna go over the people that already believe and already trust psychology and psychologists. Okay, so here we go to Sygmund. Sygmund is the app that connects people and psychologists everywhere, anytime, at a clear and affordable cost. As you can see already, technology plays a part, but there is a strong model. So, with some legal alchemics of the Italian law that can be replicated, Sygmund is one entity. Psychologists are under contract with Sygmund, but if they want to work there, they must agree with my Sygmund system, which is 5 or 8 sessions. They propose packets of 5 or 8 conversations, colloquia, depends on how we call them sessions, because we don't even call them patients, but users, because we are at the border of clinic. So it can be slight counseling for stress, anxiety, but it can be also psychological counseling in work organizational psychology, sports psychology. So we call them users and call the each and every encounter with the psychology a session, but it's going in modules of 5 or 8, and each and every one of them in Italy costs 29 euros, which is at the very, 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 very bottom of the spectrum of how a psychologist can cost. In Italy, it does cost between 60 and 70. Some they go way more than €1 for a session. Let's say that everywhere, almost everywhere, you could find a psychologist live in a studio that goes for 60, 70 euros. We do 29.90, okay? Indeed, the psychologist doesn't have any cost, doesn't do nothing. We also do the fiscal and everything. The psychologist just need to be here and speak in front of a computer. We take care of everything else. And furthermore, the sessions are not 1 hour. The module that we studied is 35 minutes. So it is still reasonably convenient considering the average income of Italian psychologists. I couldn't change the colloquio because this is an image. But by the way, this is the interface. As you can see, there's one button, call now. So you download it, call now. There is a few questions, 4 questions. You can choose between a short list of psychologists that match your request and speak. The psychologist can access Sygmund only through a desktop portal. This is already working. There are a lot of functions, but I'm not going to tell you today because it will be long. So the characteristics of Sygmund is that it's safe, 5 or 8 sessions, matching with the most adequate professionals. We also have the function of chat, even though we use it mostly for managing the patient, so changing the time of the next session if it's needed or whatever. But it's a useful function. Everything is designed to be super easy. You download it. You have one big button. You press that. The big idea is that you go and talk with the psychologist. Then the psychologist speaks and teaches you how to use it. But you can insert your data and also make the first payment guided by the psychologist. The app is made for going in touch with the real person, video, the app indeed is video, as fast as possible because we don't want to scare off people. 24 hours per day. So in 10 days, what happened in 10 days? Because we were live 10 days ago. I'm not trying to, I'm mostly trying to tell you that psychology and online psychology right now can be a game changer. In 10 days, we won a prize for one of the best startups in Italy, even though we were invited because they learned of us 5 days before, and we are psychologists. I didn't even have a finished pitch for investors. Because that's why I'm not doing a lot of research right now. I'm writing papers for investors. I'm writing papers for integrating in for economic integration. It's fun, and it's not exactly research. So despite being nowhere prepared, we won a prize for startups. We've been featured in national and local press and TV. They just called me, and I will have to go after. Probably I can make it till the end, but there is a national television, the TG5, Anna Maria, that wants an interview with me. Then we've been contacted by the biggest Italian software house for business that does CRMs and stuff, a company that grosses more than 2 billion. They contacted me via LinkedIn because they want to integrate Sygmund in their software for companies. I have been contacted, again, one via LinkedIn, another one knew me, they called me, and another one via the site, 3 health funds and 1 insurance, so that they can add Sygmund as their terminal for psychological profession. Okay, some of you don't know me. I have a certain credibility in Italy because I've been the secretary of the National Board of Psychologists for 6 years. So, I mean, I'm not, maybe if I was a 25 years old psychologist, it would take a bit longer for me to get some corporate trust. but nevertheless, it never happened to me to have such a request in 10 days. And we still didn't do any advertisement. That's the fun thing. We are planning, but the big campaign, we have already thousands of euros, tens of thousands of euros covered, starts in January. So all of this is organic, no advertisement. 350 psychologists registered in the platform. We gave access to 50 of them. The other are queuing because otherwise there will be too many psychologists. 500 downloads organic. This is probably an old data before the weekend. 30 users started to use Sygmund and also started paying, which is, you know, I don't want to seem attached to money, but I believe in the self-sustainability of social projects. If a project cannot sustain itself, it relies on charity. If you rely on charity, you rely on the willingness of somebody that has the money. You can be useful to them at a certain point, you cannot tomorrow, and they forget about you. So I don't believe in any social project that doesn't stay up in its own legs. So people that pay 29.9 euros per session is really, really, really low. And we are helping a lot of people. This is still organic. One dropout, one woman was quite angry because she thought it was 100% free. And she said to the psychologist that we have to do it free. Okay, whatever. 4 stopped after 5 sessions. They were proposed 5 sessions. They did them and they said, we're okay for now. The others, 25, they're still ongoing. They did the package of 8 sessions, but they're still doing them. No, none of them has finished the 8 yet. Maybe some of them will go on. So how is it being used? This is interesting. As I said, I cannot say I have real data because right now we are not, the psychologists in their platform, they can write down why people called, but we still didn't have the time to get everything and analyze. So we had a call with all the psychologists working and we asked them, 86% are just in a state of anxiety. So they didn't call for something specific. They feel anxiety, they feel stress, they're stressed because of the COVID situation. So they wanted to speak with the psychologist online. 14% just 2 other reasons, still related with COVID indeed. This is the moment we live on. Family relations and work, problems with smart working, fear of losing work. So we have, for now, if you watch the site, we have a lot, we suggest a lot of topics that people can talk about with the psychologist, but only 3 have been used till now. Satisfaction, 4 or 5 stars for every session. The stars are not published. We are not TripAdvisor. We don't want to publish judgments of people to psychologists. We use them for our own internal evaluation. So there are no little stars, especially because the choice between the psychologists for the user is very narrow, because it's Sygmund that proposes the psychologist. You can choose among 3, more or less. The qualitative data is being analyzed, but I also ask the psychologists, and they say that when I will have some qualitative analysis, we will find out that the app, the performance, the psychological support is being extremely useful for the people that are using it. They say that they feel a lot of benefit and has a deep impact. Most of all for people that cannot move, that are forced at home. A few of them, I didn't ask the psychologists, is a delicate topic, but few of them that use the app are in quarantine. So they cannot go out of the house, they cannot even see their family. Even if they live in the same house, they have to lock themselves in a room or something like that. So this service is proving to be extremely useful. And we have also the other part, as I said, not just helping health, but also the economic recovery. we can use it. And as I said, we are already speaking with organizations. We planned to do it in January, but actually the organizations are coming to us before we even go to them for managing anxiety and stress. So as you know, a psychological terminal for workers, especially workers in smart working. We can enhance performance. It's a support given by the company, so it's a corporate social responsibility, but not just that, it's also a health and safety action. So there's a lot of laws and regulations, but health and safety is a European directory, so it's valid with different regulations, but in all European countries and also in the countries that adopt para-European regulations, and it can help, therefore, economic recovery. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a lot of advertisement. Psychology cannot break the 25% of the population, cannot go over, because there's never been a terminal that made more money than single or few professionals together. So advertisement could never go mainstream. With Sygmund, we can and we will. So 15 euros per user is a lot. We need to go down when the recognizability of the platform is higher, but still with 15% cost per every user, the actual gross for an average user is going to be 300 euros. Therefore, even cut all the costs and stuff, we stay at more or less 10% of the profit, which means that we can still pay a lot of money in research and development. I know these are not calculations that we do a lot in the academic world, but otherwise this thing is not going to work. This thing is going to die and nobody will benefit from that. So I also say 15 euros per user, then it's already smaller, it's already lower than it was before, because psychology right now is relevant and there is COVID. If this period was not this period, I would say 30 euros per user. 15 is just good. We want to go at 6-7 euros per user in the future. Connection with social players and public bodies. Sygmund is a social enterprise. We do it to reach everybody, as many people as we can, being self-sustainable, but giving a social service. So we expect and we hope to have support from social players and a relation with the public sector, with the government or regional governments. We need to do a lot of research and development. We have already a few functionalities in mind, but that will be a whole new topic. Research, if any of you has any research question that can be operationalized via a net of psychologists talking, because let's be honest, not all of the that's the journal. I'm going to answer later, but this is the TV calling. Not all of the research types can be done with speaking psychologists, but I have 50 and it's going to be 100 psychologists that can register answers. So any type of research topic that can be addressed that way is welcome, and we will use Sygmund for research. And internationalization. I'm not going to make Sygmund international without the support of the scientific community. Don't know what happened. I'm not going to make it without the scientific community, because the scientific community has been a staple of Sygmund since the beginning here in Italy. I myself am a member of it, and everybody that helped me are university guys. If anybody wants to think about Sygmund, and I'm talking to all of you, if you want to try Sygmund in your country, you need to translate the app, find psychologists, and adapt, scale the economic model, which means get the lowest psychologists do in your country, reduce it by 10-15%, and see if it's feasible. If it is, I'm gonna be glad to discuss with anybody that wants to internationalize this effort, which is costing me sleepless nights, and trust me, the painful part, which is the technological one, I've done it. So your job would be much easier, but it's really giving us great satisfactions in terms of how we can help people concretely, which is not something that I would consider being secondary. So that more or less is what we're doing. That is it. Ira, darling.
Thank you, Alessandra. As I understood, you invite for cooperation.
Here we are. My app is working and running. Download it. It's in Italian, but if you want to download it, you should be able to download it in every telephone. If you need an Italian psychologist in Italian, here we are.
I understood that you told that what your partner will need is translation and contracts with psychologists.
Yeah, and an adaptation of the economical model. Well, it needs to be adapted to the economic conditions and the laws of each and every country, and so it needs to be scaled, in a way that's feasible. But I mean, mostly no technological work. Yeah, that's what it is.
Alessandra, I expected to see your contact details on the last slide. If anybody of our participants are interested to contact you, how can they do that?
It is it's in the first slide. It's in the first slide because I keep the Sygmund stuff I keep the Sygmund stuff alone. Otherwise, I get confused. Mostly because I don't. But I'm gonna post it on the chat.
Yes.
Because otherwise, if you use my personal email, there's a reasonable possibility that I miss the email, because sometimes I do. But this one,
it happens.
I'm not the one who reads it. I'm I'm the terminal, but I have people that make sure that they get read. So it's much better to use the institutional Sygmund address. They asked me, a lot of journalists, the ones that have a passion for psychology, they ask me, did you call it Sygmund because you guys are psychoanalytic or something like that? And I always say no, because it's pop, and because it's recognizable, and because I knew that I even didn't have to explain the name to you, no matter where you're from. Actually, I think it's a fun name. It works. Everybody attaches it to psychology. It's just us psychologists that fear that it would be attached to psychoanalysis. People don't even know what psychoanalysis is. I mean, they don't know exactly the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. General people. So I wouldn't be too scared that they think we have a daybed and we ask them about their mothers.
Okay. Now, due to program, Mariana Velykodna should have had her presentation, but she had to leave for a while, and she will return 10 to 5. And if we are still here, she will make her presentation, and if not, that will be something that we will miss. And now I will make a presentation, and it will be either last or the one before the last. Can you see presentation? I don't know what you see when I share. Yes. So This year, I got acquainted to art therapy. This spring, just before lockdown, I was lucky to visit a conference of Ukrainian Art Therapy Association and have seen many resourceful techniques which I have tried on myself and found it very practical. While Alessandra doesn't hear me, I will tell that I don't consult the psychotherapist for some reasons, but as every person, from time to time, I need something resourceful to regulate myself. And this spring, I had a horrible professional crisis. And art therapy was the thing which helped me a lot. That is why I would like to share my ideas with you. And I also share it when I teach courses in postgraduate education for psychologists and for university teachers and so on, and also for PhD students. So the title of my presentation is Art Development in Adult Education. Now I work as an associate professor at University of Educational Management and head of the board of Center for Personal and Social Transformations. The goal of this presentation is to shape directions for art development techniques in adult education due to tendencies of VUCA world, which require readiness for constant acquisition of new skills. Maybe some of you know this term, but those who didn't meet it can see that VUCA is abbreviation, which means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. All of us experienced all of that quite significantly in spring, maybe a little bit earlier than spring. This term was introduced in 1987 in the US Army War College, and in 2002, starting from 2002, this term is used more often. In conditions of VUCA world, situations of vulnerability are inevitable. And all risks cannot be foreseen by contracts. VUCA world can make you function in unpredictable conditions in which you will be vulnerable from your partner's behavior, and you will need to develop new strategies because common strategies will not be effective anymore. Behavior of partners in such extreme situations depends on their values and behavior strategies. Behavior corresponding to strategy of survival contradicts the strategy of development. Survival assumes rescuing oneself by thinking others, the strategy of preserving one's life in extreme situations. This strategy, as a rule, does not contain long-term planning. Strategy of augmenting one's resources by overtaking or subordination others can be considered as a more complex strategy of survival, as it contains long-term planning. Strategy of development, on the contrary, assumes preserving balance of interests of all sides, mutual values and norms of partners. Professional self-realization and success in conditions of VUCA world depends on who is willing to cooperate with us. A strategy of survival repels potential partners' mutual professional activity with which could bring all sides of this activity to a new, higher professional level. Many decisions in conditions of VUCA world when it is impossible to calculate all risks are made based on trust. Both reason-based and implicit trust becomes necessary condition of economic and professional realization. At the same time, values should become orientation for personal and professional development in VUCA world. Awareness of relation between values on the level of normative ideals and the level of individual priorities is possible by means of traditional art therapy techniques. It is especially effective to implement techniques based on use of metaphors in adult education. For example, metaphor of stairs, wheel of life balance, map of achievements. Techniques of actualization of a person's potential, which are used in postgraduate education, are rather techniques of art development than art therapy. Necessity to refuse from well-tried ways of work performance is often connected to stresses, change of job, temporary unemployment, change of professional field. Specialists have to constantly acquire new knowledge and skills to remain in demand. Art development techniques through awareness of feelings, emotions, states help specialists to see inevitable changes from the point of opening perspectives for development, show resourcefulness of constant learning, in conditions of permanent renewal of skills in order to remain competitive, psychological readiness for constant learning in adult age, despite professional achievements gained by outdated skills, become an indispensable condition for successful professional activity. Such readiness for constant learning can be also considered as prophylaxis of psychological traumatization in professional crisis passing. Professional crises in conditions of unpredictable VUCA world are often connected to destabilization of professional identity. When professional identity is basic in the system of social identities of a person, professional crisis can lead to change in professional field for the sake of solving this crisis, accompanied by simultaneous balancing the system of social identities. One of the reasons for such crisis can be incompatibility of values and norms of a person and organization in which he or she works. In such cases, specialists can leave the professional field for the sake of preserving oneself. Here is the model of social identity which can be applied to different types of social identities, such as professional identity, citizenship identity, with slight differences, but the core is reflected here. In the center of this model are values. The outer layer are attitudes. The next layer is styles of interpersonal interaction, and the outer layer is behavior in concrete situation of interaction. Values and attitudes constitute meaning content of social identity model and are the most stable, while outer layers can be changed. Changes in these two layers can be accompanied by different crises. A shift from one professional sphere to another enables enrichment of cross-sectoral experience, development of versatile potential for the sake of its further realization. Experience obtained in one sphere can become something to lean on when passing professional crisis in another sphere. Behavior strategies successfully implemented in previous spheres of professional activity can become winning because they are uncommon in present sphere. Specialists in the state of professional crisis suffer from decline of professional well-being and require psychological support, which can be included in the system of postgraduate education, partly in the form of art development. Thus, actualization, development, and realization of person's potential often occurs in the process of shifting from one sphere to another. VUCA world suggests such a plurality of meanings that visual metaphor can be used as the most effective instrument which enables to connect personal meanings with ambiguous changing meanings of VUCA world without losing identity and compromising values. Orientation on personal values in uncertain VUCA world requires awareness of these values and goals as orientation and behavior strategy choice and actions in each concrete situation. We consider visual metaphor as an inherent component of adult education due to activation of emotional and intellectual spheres in conditions of ambiguous and uncertain meanings. Olga Ugrina considers metaphor as an instrument of emotional and intellectual spheres activation. Our mind turns to metaphor when it is difficult to find ready solutions, explanations, meanings. A situation with many unknowns provokes a process of metaphor creation. Process of metaphor creation includes such logical operations as comparison and analysis involving imagination, what promotes understanding. Effectiveness of understanding through metaphor is attributable to its ability to activate emotional and intellectual spheres. Another art therapist, Oksana Molchanova, offers such a method as scribbling. She describes scribbling as an unconscious way of traumatic experience taking away, releasing excessive emotions and feelings. Every drawing through lines and forms reflects unconscious. Projections of feelings on outer objects promotes recognition of these feelings. Images accelerate verbalization of experience. Scribbling promotes enhancement of self-esteem, confidence in opportunities, touches spheres of creative potential of personality, describes level of anxiety, promotes personal growth. According to Lebedeva, people express their feelings by scribbling rather than create image or picture. Scribbles have also high diagnostic level. Scribbling in group promotes formation of respectful attitude to expression of initiative from other group members. Group members do not need to worry about quality of drawings, estimation by others. It is an opportunity to relieve a responsibility and stay in the role of a child, due to Molchanova. Another Ukrainian art therapist, Voznesenskaya, underlines that scribbling is a forceful regression to the period when any actions of a child cause the delight and positive emotions of parents. That is why implementation of this technique causes joy even among adults. Scribbling can be considered for implementation in adult education as an art development technique. I have tried this method during my courses on in postgraduate education, and definitely it cannot be used as a single method, but it can be combined with other methods. And what I have mentioned is that in a group, after making some exercise with scribbling, participants start participants start to express themselves more openly. And when they start after the scribbling exercises sharing their opinions about some other issues, it was very difficult to stop this discussion. Such an emotional process started, and maybe some barriers were broken. In the end of my presentation, I would like to share with you a technique in which I combined several techniques of art therapy. And this technique can be useful when you have a state of anxiety and you don't understand what is going on. It can be used like a like a resourceful help for yourself, and also like a diagnostic method, because scribbling is has a high diagnostic potential. What I offer is to take several small rectangular sheets of square sheets of paper, even number, it can be 4, 6 or 8, which you will need to connect in the end of exercise. Every day, draw your emotions, feelings and states on a sheet of paper by lines using color pencils, preferably avoiding images of symbols, or minimize them and draw symbols only when they are very important. Fullness of sheets by lines, their colors and diversity is on your own preference. It is better to finish drawings in the evening and avoid returning to it next day, but during the day you can you can add scribbling to your drawing. The last day, connect all sheets by transparent scotch from the side without drawings to make one sheet out of all 8 sheets of paper. And when you see this one collected sheet of paper, try to reflect what emotions does this connected collage raises in you, what emotions prevail. Would you like to change spectrum of these emotions? What were the reasons for these emotions during those days? Dalinova, describing similar technique, the calendar of scribbles, mentions the following results of such drawing. Unexpected and unusual ideas, clarification of feelings, more precise understanding of situation, improvement of emotional state due to release of feelings during drawing. And in the end of the presentation, I would like to show you possible collage that a person who does this method has. Thank you for your attention. Mariana has not returned. Alessandra also has left.
I'm 1 second at the phone, but I'm here with you. No worries.
Okay.
Like, I'll be fully back in a short while.
In a short while. How short? Oh, okay. So
5 minutes, no worries.
So what I would propose is a discussion of the last 3 presentations, including a presentation of Zinaida Bolea, Alessandro De Carlo, and my presentation. We can combine all of them with the focus on psychology. So if anybody has comments, you can share these comments with us. Yes, Diana.
Sorry, Boyan. I just wanted to say that I find very helpful those information shared by you for us, because I would expect that scientists are healing themselves, that we are capable to heal those wounds caused by the present situation. But I think that we really do need this psychological support during this crisis, because to perform our jobs, especially some kind of science, social science, we should not isolate ourselves, and we should share this psychological support. So I made some tweets concerning this startup idea made by Alessandro. So I hope that good ideas should be shared and multiplied. So thank you very much. I find it very helpful. And my question is, I don't know, I have no touch with young generation or of PhD candidates or even younger students, but may I ask you in what extent they need some kind of psychological support, not only of scientific support? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. All people need psychological support from time to time. In our everyday life, we talk to our friends also for psychological support, but sometimes it is not possible to tell everything. Most people apply for psychological counseling, as Alessandra told. Some people apply for art therapy. Some people need something resourceful, and it is not possible to find a solution which will be applicable for everyone. It is not possible to, for my opinion, personal opinion, to find only one approach for psychological counseling which can be applicable for all clients. Every person is inclined to some definite method. And we as scientists need to find this the method which is applicable for us. Scientific job sometimes is very difficult, because we even if we don't want, we need to compete with our colleagues. It is competitive with different psychological consequences of that, and we need to stabilize our emotions after some situations which can arise. You can go for psychological consultancy, or you can go to art therapy. It's up to you. Or you can combine. Anything else? Boyan?
I wanted to ask Zinaida about her presentation. To what extent this topic is discussed in public currently? Is it still an open topic, or it's more academic? Because I think similar issues were active in different countries at different time for various reasons. I'm just wondering how it's over there.
Thank you for questions. This topic of deportations were closed until 19th, and it was really closed because it was an interdiction to discuss about this, and it was a fear from the deportees to discuss about this subject. After 19th, it was open in some context, some academical context, some cultural context. Some protagonists of deportation start to write their biographies, and it was a way to present this phenomena in the public speech. And last day, it's more discussing in academical context, and in Republic of Moldova there are a lot of there are many academical projects in which is studying this topic, and there are some national projects in which the researchers do the interviews with deported persons.
But is it also politically politicized topic? Do political actors, parties, and so on sort of have argument or opposed views on the matter?
At the moment, it's less used in political discussions or manipulating tendencies, but I think it remains a topic of available topic for this kind of manipulations. Because and there are some projects, academical projects, which implies the introduction of this topic in the more introduction of this topic in academical programs in schools. And this is the opportunity to better understand this phenomena for young generations.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Alessandro?
But I want to say that this phenomena of splitting community used by repressive system, I think that in our community there is a open topic because we have this splitting of community, and at the same time also. And deportation was an element of splitting the community.
Do you say there are other sources of splitting in addition that are relevant and debated?
Now, at this moment, another element of splitting is ethnical one.
Mm-hmm.
And now politicians are trying to split the community through the differentiation Russian, Moldavian, or Russian Romanians. This is a principal elements of splitting now in nowadays the political arguments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm continuing the discussion, but are these two now splits sort of parallel, cross-cutting? Are they related somehow?
I don't understand.
The split concerning the attitude towards the deportation. So I guess there are different views, and therefore as a reflection of the events, that people see it differently, and now more contemporary split about the ethnic identity. So these two, the old one and the newer one, are they somehow related? Is it the same group on one side, or it's cross-cutting?
If it's related to deportation, I'll say yes, because deportation was organized by a repressive system, and the Russia was representative of the repressive system, Soviet communist repressive system. And now regarding to the splitting of community, I want to tell about this splitting regarding pro-European tendencies and pro-estic tendencies. And all these topics, they are working together, and deportation was a not speaking, talking subject for many years, and it remains like unspoken topic and unelaborated moment of our history.
Okay, thanks. Sounds very interesting.
Alessandra, are you back with us?
Here I am. Età tra i 30 e i 40.
Just a moment. Ольга, can you, Ольga, вы можете, я вижу. Mariana Velykodna is with us.
Sì, infatti. Ma forse è anche che non abbiamo ancora fatto pubblicità, quindi devi vederlo dai social, eccetera, e questo potrebbe essere...
Alessandra, could you switch off your microphone? I love you speaking Italian, but I would like to introduce Mariana Velykodna, and we have one more presentation if we can survive so late. Her presentation, final presentation of our meeting today, is financial aspect of psychological practice in Eastern Europe in the beginning of COVID-19 outbreak.
Thank you, Iryna. Dear colleagues, I'm happy to take part in this seminar, finally. Unfortunately, my co-author Irina Frankova could not participate today, but I will do my best to introduce you some brief notes of our study. First of all, I want to say that these results may seem outdated to our date of the seminar, because we have written it in March and we sent the text to Iryna in April, and all these results are connected to the beginning of the COVID outbreak, but these results may help us to remind something special about that beginning, and help us to compare these findings with some new observations or new data we will get maybe this winter or in the next spring. Well, the aim of this report is to share the specific results of the biggest study on COVID pandemic effects on psychological support and psychotherapy, which occurred after the first cases of coronavirus appeared in the region. To achieve research goals, an anonymous online survey for practitioners in psychology and psychotherapy was developed and conducted during just 3 days, March 14 and 16, via the internet. That was the first. That was a period after the first cases in a number of countries. The list of countries I will mention later. The participants of the survey were Ukrainian-speaking and Russian-speaking psychologists and psychotherapists from several countries of Eastern Europe. Data analysis of the study is based on descriptive statistics, calculation of frequencies and percentages. So, several words about participants. Total 145 responses were received by the survey from female and male participants. As you see, 90% from female participants, which is similar to other data from literature. It is common for Eastern Europe, for Balkan region, for example, that almost 85% of psychologists and psychotherapists who participate in studies are females. The duration of their experience in practice was from 1 to 27 years. From the total sample, 30% of practitioners were affiliated in institutions, mental health centers or organizations, and 77.9% worked with patients in private practice. Consequently, as you see, some 7.6% work in both spheres. Besides, 91% of specialists marked that they usually held practice in person, 42 from them in person only, and 57.9% told they worked online, and 8% from this group online only. Those who worked mostly in person usually mentioned one country where their practice was located. That was a question where they from, or where with patients from which countries they do work. Online psychologists indicated a number of countries. Thus, overall, we gathered a list of countries where specialists were from Ukraine, Russian Federation, Poland, and Belarus mostly, as you see on the slide. But also other countries were mentioned as patient's location: USA, Finland, Israel, UK, Hungary, and so on. In relation to COVID pandemic situation, 46% of them pointed out that there had been no cases of COVID yet in the region. Let me show you the slide. That was a question about are there any cases of COVID near you? We mentioned the region, city or town, and so on. And 37.9% confirmed that there had been cases of novel coronavirus in the region, and 11 from this group also mentioned lethal cases. Additionally, almost 16% of survey participants stated they were not informed about the situation with COVID pandemic in the region. They do not know what is the situation, are there cases or not. And only 35.9% of psychologists and psychotherapists confirmed that they had already observed or initiated some changes in content or setting of their work by the time the survey took place. And what was interesting, the more often the topic of the COVID pandemic was discussed at the sessions by the patient, the more often it affected the style and technique of the specialist, and push psychotherapists not just to think about some further modifications, but to change the format at the moment. It was about the place, the frequency. You see this on the slide. Setting difficulties, canceled sessions, financial issues were more frequent among consultants of private practice, while both groups affiliated to institutions and practitioners from private practice equally frequently proposed online sessions to their clients. It might be associated with the fact that the majority of the studied countries in the majority of the studied countries, the patients pay themselves for their consultations or psychotherapy, and many face or anticipate the financial difficulties. I mean, we do not have such medical insurance as it is in some other countries. Financial aspects of psychological practice in the beginning of COVID outbreak were mentioned in the responses of some specialists in two blocks of questions. The first of them was connected to the current perceived modifications in work with clients and was formulated as an open question. It is important to consider that this question had not directed participants to refer to any financial issues. So we just asked what modifications do you see, do you observe? And they have written something about financial. In the first block of the topic of finances appeared in the context of limitations to continue the work with some individuals. Due to the danger of infection with COVID during studied periods, some psychologists, psychotherapists, or their patients cancelled meeting in person, consultations, individual and groups, therapy sessions, psychological classes with children, and some public project. In most cases, it was possible to continue sessions online. However, for some individuals, it was impossible to participate in online sessions for different reasons. For example, lack of space at home where other family members were present, limitations of the method to be conducted online, for example, psychodrama, body-oriented therapy, and so on. Consequently, the work with them was suspended for the quarantine duration. What was also noticed is that some patients could not continue to get psychological support even in their usual online format because of financial difficulties. The reason was that the lockdown, as well as the worldwide economic impact of COVID-19, had reduced the patient's usual income. We suppose this fact is somehow connected with the other type of answers to this question, where the emphasis an urgency as a new characteristic of requests was made. Psychologists and psychotherapists had noticed an increase in the amount of urgent consultations with new, current, and past patients. In the financial impact, if the financial impact is significant for these patients, they may ask for the psychological support in literally urgent cases only. In the second block, devoted to anticipated modifications in practice in case if the situation with COVID-19 in the region would worsen, 36% from total amount of practitioners answered they would accept delay in payment for sessions and consultation if needed. 17% accepted they were ready to decrease temporarily their standard fees for psychological support. The group of 22% mentioned that charitable format for consultation with some individuals in need was acceptable. And 9% of specialists agreed to try an exchange of consultation to certain patients' goods or services instead of fee. When we analyzed this block of questions, we summarized that these anticipated ideas were aimed at continuing the work with patient in the situation if the regular payment is temporarily impossible. But here are the conclusions of what I just said. But also I would comment for now that that was also some mechanisms of defense, of psychic defense, because it was somehow reflected denial and attempts to control or to see the situation with COVID as under psychologists' control. It means that COVID situation, COVID crisis would not make a psychologist poor. Psychologist is anticipated how he or she himself or herself will manage these financial losses. So we may look at this data this way too. I may add from my other research that some specialists in next studies in during other periods told that 1/6 part of total amount of practitioners had to suspend their work at all. So they just lost their clients and they could not continue their work. But other psychologists, psychoanalysts who are my colleagues, some of them tell that they even have more clients than before because the reason is obvious. People do need psychologists now to cope with all these feelings. But actually we have very different experience how the financial issues are reflecting in the current certain practice of each psychologist or psychotherapist. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mariana. Does anybody have comment or question for the last presentation?
I want to say that it's very interesting, the presentation of Mariana, and these realities are related then to the work of psychoanalysts. Psychoanalyst was invited to work online, and this reality was unthinkable for psychoanalysts a year ago, and all the psychoanalysts told every time that the analysis is possible only on the couch in the cabinet. And now the psychoanalytic world is adapted himself to these new social realities.
That's why the name of, excuse me, of Sygmund for the online platform by Alessandro is I don't know which could be the reaction of Sigmund Freud in where he is now. I don't know, from a star. I don't know. It's nice. And I was thinking about how the, and just a second, I stop immediately, how this interest for the metaphor, for the artistic side that can be in the educational setting as Iryna is the main field of application, if I understood, but also in clinical psychology, how the Sygmund platform could integrate the use of visual, iconic, figurative channel, because in my own experience, including in research, but I come also from clinical psychology and with several psychotherapist training, this figurative channel is the most symbolic, and the people are able to express things that part of themselves they would never admit orally or by text. So, okay, this is just trying to find integration, because the use of a metaphor can be also through language, but also through drawing, visual thinking. Okay, stop.
Thank you. Actually, we moved to the final discussion, and I'm glad to say that our first online seminar was successful. All of us managed. And I'm very happy that it happened, that it was in such a way. If anybody of you has an idea how we shall continue meeting while we are in conditions of pandemic, nobody knows when quarantine finishes, and this world is quite unexpected. We never know what next surprise will be. Anna Maria has given me a good idea that I shall next year I shall work more on the book of short articles and include literature also. But I agree with that, but that would mean that somebody will need to correct APA standard, because even if we give it to authors, as I have mentioned several times, every author understands APA in his or her way. So I will seek for a person who will do that. But definitely the quality of edition will be higher if we include literature. Any other suggestions? Maybe we can also organize some shorter meetings in between this annual one-day meeting. Maybe some short meetings between 3 or 4 people from different countries or something like that.
I heard from Andrea Giacomotti from Brazil that probably she will organize the next meeting. Is it true? Or together you, of course, in Brazil, if it's possible, or online, if not possible.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And
well, about smaller meetings, I guess that could be useful, especially if people of similar interests you know, meet together. They may discuss, I don't know, possible collaboration or something like that. I think something like that would be really valuable outcome of this group's activity, if some joint projects collaborations could you know, be developed and seen in the future.
Also, small groups gives us opportunity to present our results just when we have it, because the world is changing so quickly that in 6 months results are already don't reflect reality. Reality is different. Yes.
I like both formats.
Sorry, because today it is everything is going so fast. I mean, I have seen so many presentations, so many good ideas. So after you put this recording of our Zoom seminar on YouTube, maybe we should stay connected concerning the emails, or probably also face-to-face 2 or 3 members could discuss one topic that is the most interesting for some of us. I mean, this is the live word. Those ideas are so vigorous, so colorful. So I think that after all of us will have the opportunity to see the recording of this conference, of this seminar on YouTube, we should have the opportunity to connect between us, maybe to share emails or to organize face-to-face discussion via Zoom, just to go deeper into certain subjects. So please do invest some more efforts to connect, to make possible for us to connect and to speak personally to each other if we want to go deeply into some subject.
Yes, definitely. Alessandra, are you here?
Yes. Hello.
Yes. So we hear some strange sound from you.
Well, I'm in a car because it comes out you bring me great luck. We are going to be with Sygmund in prime time in the second national television in Italy tonight at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to register the journalist called me and I'm running for registering the intervention.
Great.
Which channel, Alessandro?
Yeah.
Which
Canale
channel?
5, andiamo al TG5.
TG5. Ah, sì,
TG5.
A che ora hai detto?
8 o'clock, quello della sera, 8:30,
Okay, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
If they can make it tonight, otherwise it's going to be tomorrow night. I mean, it depends on how fast I am.
In bocca al lupo, avrai successo, una grande idea.
Grazie. So after this, well, Anna Maria and I were, you know, she knows the television I'm going to, so like, cool. By the way, I enjoyed listening a lot of contributions, and this is a great community. If we can keep us together, meeting each other, even though we cannot go in physically, it means that you, Iryna, most of all of us, you have created something real, something strong, and it's something that you should be really credited for, you know? And I say it with all my heart.
Thank you, Alessandra. As I see, there is need for some network, and we should think over how to organize it and how to organize sharing of plans and meet from time to time to discuss them, and maybe we can really produce some international projects and apply for different funds, and who knows what will happen then. So I'm very optimistic with this first online meeting. I'm very grateful to Olga who helped us. Thank you, Olga, and to all participants who contributed in this meeting to happen. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Irina.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Irina.
And we will keep in touch.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao a tutti.